She was only 11 the night she walked into the police station, barefoot, shaking, and holding a single folded piece of notebook paper. Officers thought she was lost, maybe running from a fight at home. But when she opened her mouth, her voice thin and breaking, the room fell silent. Because the first sentence out of that little girl's mouth didn't sound like anything an 11-year-old should even know how to say. My daddy, he has another family. In the basement? For a moment, the officers thought she meant it metaphorically, the way kids mix up nightmares with reality. But she didn't blink. She didn't smile. She didn't even breathe wrong. She held the paper out like it weighed 100 pounds. My dad told me never to show this to anyone, but I think someone's gonna die. It's here, right here. Where the story stops being just a story. This is the moment every officer in that room realized they were no longer dealing with a runaway child. They were dealing with a witness. The kind of witness you never expect and never forget. Because hidden inside that folded paper was a map. A messy hand-drawn layout of a basement, with one room circled again and again. Next to the circle was a single word scribbled in shaky handwriting, D-O-N. The girl said her father had shown her the map a week earlier. She didn't understand why he was nervous, pacing, mumbling to himself. But she remembered every word he said, because it scared her more than anything she'd ever heard. One day someone might come looking. If they do, you point them away. You tell them it's just storage, no matter what you hear, no matter what anyone says. She thought he was joking, like a scary story meant to keep her away from old tools or electrical wires. Until the night the screaming started, short, muffled, like someone yelling into a pillow. She froze, listening, and the sound cut off as quickly as it began. Her father walked upstairs slowly, calmly, wiping sweat from his forehead as if he'd been moving furniture. When he saw her standing in the hall, he didn't yell. He didn't panic. He just knelt down, looked her dead in the eyes, and said, "Some secrets keep you safe. Other secrets keep the world safe from you knowing too much. This one is both." And then he sent her to bed. For an adult, those words might be confusing. But to a child, they weren't confusing at all. They were terrifyingly clear. She slept with her light on for a week, clutching a stuffed rabbit until the fur rubbed off the ears. She couldn't tell her mom, not because she didn't trust her, but because her mom never went near the basement. Ever. It was a rule in the house, and she followed it religiously. But the girl didn't. Children don't follow rules they don't understand, especially when fear is louder than obedience. So one afternoon, when her dad was out running errands and her mom was napping, she walked downstairs, slowly, one step at a time. The smell hit her first, a heavy, stale air like something had been trapped for too long. She never reached the door. She didn't even touch it, because from the other side, she heard breathing, not loud, not gasping, just breathing. Human, too close to the door, too slow to be normal. She ran upstairs, grabbed a marker, and circled the room on her own version of the basement map. She wrote the word "no one" because she wanted to warn herself. She didn't know she'd one day show it to the police. She would later whisper to investigators that the breathing haunted her dreams, that she didn't know if it belonged to a man or a woman. All she knew was that the person sounded tired, like someone who didn't remember what fresh air felt like. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came 2 days later, when she overheard her dad on the phone. Only one line was clear through the static of whispered arguments. "They won't make it to the end of the week. I'm handling it." That was the moment she made her decision. She grabbed her shoes, the map, and a jacket too big for her. And at 3 in the morning, she slipped out of the house and ran. She didn't stop until she saw police lights. She had no idea what they would do with her story. She just knew she had run out of time. Hours later, officers descended on the house. Her mother, confused and still half asleep, asked what was happening. And then she said something that made every investigator freeze. "My husband doesn't let me in the basement. He says it's where he works on his inventions. He's an engineer, he builds things." But the girl had already told the officers the truth. Her dad didn't build things down there, he hid them. When police finally broke the padlock door open, a door reinforced far beyond what any normal basement required. The smell spilled out first. The air was humid and wrong. A low, constant hum filled the space, like machinery running just below full power. Then the flashlights hit the walls. Every inch was covered in notes, strings, newspaper clippings, faces, missing person posters, dates, times. And in the center of the room sat a chair, bolted to the floor. With restraints, the chair was empty. whatever, or whoever had been in that room was gone. Investigators searched for hours, combing every dark corner, but there was no trace of another person, just signs that someone had been kept there recently. Bedding still warm, food freshly eaten, a cup of water half drunk, and next to the chair, a crumpled piece of paper. 4 words, "She let me out." That sentence changed everything, because it meant someone had escaped, someone who hadn't chosen to be there, someone who had been hidden in that basement for God knows how long. But there was another, more terrifying implication. The person believed the girl had freed them, but the girl had never opened the door. To this day, investigators debate what that note meant. Some believe the captive escaped on their own. Some believe the father moved them before the search. Others believe something else entirely, something darker, involving manipulation, psychological conditioning, and a bond twisted by confinement. The father was never found. He vanished before the team even reached the house. His car abandoned, his phone left behind, his bank accounts untouched. It was like he walked into the woods and never walked out. The girl was placed in protective custody. She still wakes up thinking she hears breathing behind a door that isn't there. She still sleeps with the light on. And sometimes, in the quiet moments before dawn, she asks investigators the question none of them can answer. If I didn't open the door, who did? Because some secrets don't just hide the truth. Some secrets walk away when the door finally swings open. And some secrets are still out there waiting, listening, breathing. But the strangest part came months later, long after the basement had been emptied, the evidence boxed, and the neighbors had stopped pretending they didn't know what kind of man had once lived next door. The girl had been moved to a quiet foster home 2 towns over. A safe place, they called it. A place where nightmares couldn't follow her. But nightmares don't listen to addresses. One night, just before sunrise, the foster mother heard a soft knock at the bedroom door. When she opened it, she found the girl standing in the hallway, pale, shaking, clutching her stuffed rabbit so tightly it looked like she was trying to stop it from disappearing. "He's back," she whispered. Her foster mother tried to tell her it was just a dream, trauma echoes like that, but the girl shook her head no. I heard the breathing again. The house was small, old, the kind that creaks when it settles. But this wasn't a creak. She said it was the same slow, steady breathing she heard behind that basement door, the breathing of someone who wasn't asleep, someone who was listening. Authorities were called immediately. They searched the entire house, attic, closets, basement, crawl spaces. Nothing. No signs of intrusion. No footprints in the snow outside. No broken locks. No fingerprints. Nothing disturbed. But while the officers were leaving, one of them paused. He stared down at the girl for a long moment, his face unreadable, then knelt beside her. "You're sure it was breathing?" he asked. She nodded. He hesitated, then said something he probably shouldn't have. "That's not the first report we've had. 2 other families. Families who lived nowhere near each other and had no connection at all, had reported strange sounds inside their homes since the night her father vanished. Slow breathing, soft footsteps, cupboard doors found open in the morning, a chair moved just slightly out of place. Nothing violent, nothing stolen, just presence, a presence with patience." The girl began to draw again, the same way she drew the map that saved her life. Only now the drawings were different. Doors, hallways, corners. Sometimes a shadow standing at the end of a staircase. Sometimes just an outline of a man with no face standing in the doorway of a bedroom. Every drawing had the same caption, "Hey, found me." Investigators didn't know what to make of it. Was her father stalking her? Was the escaped captive searching for her? Or was something else happening? Something rooted deeper in psychology, trauma, memory. One of the detectives, a veteran who'd seen every kind of case break itself apart, said something that stuck with everyone. Monsters don't need basements to hide in. Sometimes they live in the corners of your mind, and sometimes they prefer the real ones. A week's passed without incident. Then one morning, the foster mother walked into the kitchen and froze. On the counter, sitting in the center like someone had placed it with intent, was a folded piece of notebook paper. The same kind the girl had used before. The same shaky handwriting. Just 3 words this time. None more. The girl hadn't written it. Her foster mother hadn't written it. And no one had entered the house. Police tested the paper. No fingerprints, no DNA, no trace of anyone. But when an officer lifted it under the light, something invisible caught the reflection. Faint lines, indentations pressed into the paper as if someone had written another message on the sheet above it. Forensic analysts enhanced it. The indent reedy, she remembers the breathing. That was the moment the investigation changed again. This wasn't random. This wasn't a coincidence. This was deliberate, calculated, personal. Someone out there understood exactly what terrified that girl the most. Someone who had stood behind a locked basement door listening. Someone who had waited for years in silence. Someone who didn't want revenge. Not yet. They wanted recognition. And every time the girl closed her eyes, she could still hear it, slow, steady, patient breathing. The kind of breathing that doesn't come from fear. The kind that comes from someone who is very, very calm and very, very close.